Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. You know, 2 years ago, a child was born in Asia. Now, this child that was born was normal in every way except for one thing. This child broke a record for mankind. This child was the 7 billionth person on this planet. Now, humans have been on the planet for, according to fossil evidence, 3 million years. So these milestones don't come that often. So all of us in this room were alive when that 7 billionth person joined the planet. But actually, in the 3 million years, these milestones have all been compressed in a short time frame. In my life, I've been alive for not only the 7 billionth person milestone, but the 6 billionth person milestone. In my life, I've been alive for the 5 billionth person milestone, the 4 billionth person milestone, the 3rd billionth person milestone. So it's happening now. And I'm not that old. I'm only, 29. So we have this huge exponential growth occurring right now. When you plot that out over 3 million years, it's that hockey stick curve right at the end. It's just, and people think by 2050 we're going to hit, that's in less than 40 years, 9 billion people on this planet. And guess what? Most of them will be moving to the urban centers, to the cities. Now, our cities today are pretty strained. Anybody that drove into Chicago from O'Hare this morning, like I did, you know that. Transportation, city services, but also strained in terms of energy usage. We talk a lot about greenhouse gases. We talk a lot about carbon footprint. Big cities like Chicago, like New York City, guess what? The biggest footprint is coming from the buildings. In New York City, that's true also. And New York City has 1 million flights coming in and out of it. And if you count the number of subway buses, train cars, taxis, you're up in 35,000, 40,000 of them. Yet the buildings account for 79% of the greenhouse gas in New York City. Now, if you look at how buildings use energy, how they use water, the sad fact is up to 40% of energy that goes into a building is wasted. Up to 50% of the water that goes into a building is wasted. So actually, that's a good thing because that's our opportunity. Because the way we're managing cities today, and there's been a lot of improvements, don't get me wrong. We just did a retrofit of major milestone building in New York City, saving $4 million a year in energy. But believe me, we're just scratching the surface. This is our opportunity. If you look at the initiatives that have been done, they're all good. But I maintain we have to kind of turn this on its head. We have to approach it in a completely different way because of this. 42% of the electricity in the world today is used by buildings. By 2025, it'll be the majority. So how can we think about buildings differently? Well, my undergraduate work was as a biologist, and I would still be a biologist today if there was money in that. But I got out of school and there wasn't too many jobs, so I said, where's the jobs? It was computer science, so I went to graduate school for computer science. And the great thing about IBM is the Smarter Planet Initiative. We're now able to take all these IT constructs and apply them to the real world. And so this was fantastic for me, kind of, bringing it all together. So much so that I feel like I don't have a job anymore. I feel like I'm on a mission. So much that we can do to improve the efficiency of our cities, the efficiency of our buildings. So the way I like to think of buildings is not as an inert, static structure, but as a living organism. I don't like to think of buildings as piece parts, but as systems of systems. Now, if you do that in a biological sense, physiology is a great field to try to then categorize the systems in a building. physiology helped medical science dramatically improve by helping practitioners not just focus on a symptom, but relate it to the systems that that symptom is part of and how the systems relate to each other. It's the same thing in buildings. The fact is, most buildings today are constructed and thought of as in piece parts. So let me give you an example. Let's take the respiratory system. Okay? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Let's just close your eyes for a second with me and just become conscious of your breath. Going in, going out, going in, just naturally, calm. Okay, stop breathing. Now hold it. Okay, let it go. I'm not going to stress you too much here. If I did that exercise for you for the next couple hours, what would you notice? You'd notice stress, right? You didn't take a big breath before I told you to hold your breath, right? So it's like all of a sudden you start to feel that CO2 depletion. You want to take a breath. You want to feel better again. It also takes energy to focus on that. And if I did that constantly, it would just be very inefficient. You'd be distracted from, what you're doing in the daytime. So the point is, this is how buildings operate. They don't breathe based on when they need to. They breathe based on some command, some building standard, some ASHRAE code standard. Okay, so the respiratory system of a building is actually the air handling units, which are the lungs of a building, all the ductwork, which is like the trachea, or the capillaries that deliver oxygen to all the cells. If you think of it holistically like this and compare it to an organism, the time you need to take a breath in a building is when the CO2 levels demand it. How do you know that in a building? Now, in buildings, it's just exchanged on a schedule. This room right now is going to have a higher oxygen demand than it is in the middle of the night when no one's in it. We have sensors that can look at CO2 levels versus oxygen levels. What else do the lungs do? They remove contaminants. They help to deliver pure oxygen to the cells. They remove waste products like CO2 from your body. Same thing with the respiratory system of a building. And there's all kinds of science and types of filters, from basic particulate filters to UV filters that can remove pathogens. So the whole idea is, rather than running a building based on what the construction and architect said to do, the building standard said to do, let's run it based on the needs of the moment. Let's help that building be occupant aware. Let's help it be task aware. Because the lens that we're looking through here is health and wellness. And guess what? When you look at that through that lens, you actually save energy. I started this whole thing, believe me, by just talking about energy and green. But it's like, I don't know, when did green all of a sudden become a turnoff, right? So many people look at green and say, I've heard it all before. But what isn't is health and wellness. I was working with Brazil as they get ready for the World Cup and the Olympics, and working with a lot of the buildings and facilities. Their biggest concern is health inside the buildings, healthy air inside the buildings. I worked for 7 years in Italy. You know what they do in the summer in Italy? With the air conditioning running, they open the windows because they think it's healthy. They don't understand, they think air conditioning will give you a cold. Now, if it's not filtered correctly or it's too aggressive, yes, but if you don't understand what that purity of the air being delivered is, I can understand having that concern. So, approaching a building from a physiologist's point of view, what we would do is say, when do you need to do air exchange? This system that delivers hot air, that delivers cold air, has to exchange fresh air to make sure that building has enough oxygen. So if you do it just when it's needed, as opposed to on a schedule, what's going to happen from your energy usage point of view? I mean, if you do it too often, every time you bring in outside air, in Chicago in the middle of the winter, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to heat it. That takes a lot of energy. If you're doing it when you don't need it, you're just wasting energy. If you do it often enough, then you're going to have a health situation in the building. You know, if you ever come back from lunch, back to your office, back to the classroom, and you're feeling really tired, and you're thinking, gosh, I shouldn't have eaten so much. Did you ever stop to think maybe this building isn't delivering enough oxygen? Maybe there's too much CO2. Maybe that's why I'm falling asleep. You know? So this can help not only your health, but your productivity. We have the technology today. The reason IBM started on this Smarter Plant initiative is because all of a sudden the world has become highly instrumented. Everything has digital sensors. Even the toaster I bought for our house is digital. And it's got all these cool functions like, you know, how's the toast look? There's a button you press, it comes up, you look at it, it's like, oh, that's looking cool. It goes back down without missing a beat. And when I go on vacation, I unplug it because it's got those LEDs burning and I worry about phantom load of electricity. But, I mean, everything's talking now in buildings. So it's just a matter of bringing it together, running analytics on it. The technology's there. There's just a different way to run it, to manage it. I'll give you another example. In the Los Angeles School District, which is the second biggest in the country, 14,000 buildings across 700 square miles. And they wanted to be greener. They didn't have the money to put in a lot of expensive new sensor technology, but what they had was, get this, a statistically significant number of students and teachers that had smartphones. Go figure. And they enabled it with an app. Very intuitive to use. They geotagged it using Esri technology so that every person in that facility then could say, okay, at any moment, does this classroom, does this building provide a productive setting? Maybe you're too cold, maybe you're too hot, maybe there's a window broken, maybe you're seeing that the sprinklers are on and it's raining outside. So the app enabled you to report on anything. You became the smart sensor. I think people are the smartest sensors there are, by the way, in determining if a building's systems are running correctly. Because the buildings are in place to serve a purpose. If they're not helping you be more productive, if they're not providing a safe and secure and healthy environment for you, they're not serving their purpose. The model today is like, just go in that building, whatever it is, you got to deal with it, right? We need to turn it on its head and say, how is the building serving you? So these geotag apps that the students are running, the teachers, they start reporting on it. Now, how do you prioritize work orders? It went right in the work order system, so you use crowdsourcing to prioritize what needed attention first. The person who reported got immediate feedback. Now, how do you keep people engaged in it? Gamification, right? You report a problem, you get points. You get recognized as the best green reporter. The school district gets, recognized as the one that took the most actions to save energy. It doesn't cost anything. It's just, gamification makes you feel good. I don't know if any of you use this Waze app, W-A-Z-E. I've thrown away my nav unit. I love this thing because it not only tells me where to go, but it uses the social media construct, who was before me, what did they see, what to watch out for, especially, the hidden radar that, But when I report a problem, there's a car on the edge of the road, it's a hazard, it says, Dave, thank you, you get 6 points. And I'm like, yes. I don't know what the points are for, but I say yes, because I love it, right? So it's a way to engage people in this. It's important to not just provide a mechanism to connect to the physical world, to your buildings, to the cities, but to keep you connected in a natural way. It doesn't require another device. It's the smartphone. It's an app that's very intuitive. Everyone knows how to use that. It uses crowdsourcing. I think what helps us, particularly in the sustainability movement and the green movement, to be able to visualize what difference, what impact you're making. So that's another thing that we did with this app in Los Angeles School District. It's like you got that bottle, you finished it, you're going to throw it in the trash. Maybe I should recycle. What difference does one bottle make, right? We've all been there. We've all done that. I never do it, but. Yeah. So the visualization says, here's the cumulative impact of all the reports from this campus or from this district. So you can start to see when everyone pulls together what enormous impact it has, right? I mean, there's nothing more powerful than seeing the visualization of all the plastic floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which most people don't see, right? But when you really see the cumulative impact of right? So again, this is something technology exists for today that we can apply it and do it in a way that is very different than today. One where we can interact, one where we become part of solving the problem, one that's focused on what do the people require. Wouldn't it be great if you all had an app right now, just like green, yellow, or red? How do you feel right now? Is it room too hot, too warm, too cold? Red, yellow, green. And it takes a crowdsourced vote. What's the majority vote? And it's directly connected to the air handling units, to the respiratory system, that if everybody is too cold, it'll feed in more warm air. And as the more I talk and the more excited I get you, right? The more energized you get, the more heat's generated. Okay, it's a little bit hot. Let's all use the app to bring the temperature down. I know it would be great in a movie theater because we always freeze in movie theaters. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? So I'll leave with one quote. This is not a future scientist. This is Aristotle. Aristotle said many years ago that a city should be in place to really improve the quality of life, not just to provide a place to live. So thank you very much.